Welcome to your fourth stimulus survival check and stimulus package update. On today's video, we'll discuss stimulus checks, Social Security, and we're still giving away $3,600 here on this channel, so watch until the end to enter to win. People running for office these days sure make some compelling statements, such as this one by California's Larry Elder.
I have a great deal of respect for women. My mom was a woman.
Go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe if your mother was also a woman. California state officials originally estimated the first batch of their new stimulus payments would go out in early September, but now say they were able to begin sending checks out last week. The first batch of about 600,000 payments totaling some $354 million was directly deposited Friday, and the state will send out checks to other taxpayers every 2 weeks. Circling back to Larry, he previously tweeted, "Why recall the guy who gives us money?" joking that California residents are being bribed by Governor Newsom. We'll get to more stimulus updates, but I think the toddler you're about to see perfectly conveys how we're all feeling about the current state of affairs here in the US. A video was shared of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi allegedly caught on a hot mic. Turns out it was apparently modified to include dialogue from a voice actor. The original video, where Pelosi and President Biden speak at a virtual event earlier this year, does not actually include any dialogue from Pelosi after Biden finishes his remarks. Take a look at the version that went viral.
And I'm happy to take questions if that's what I'm supposed to do, Nance, whatever you want me to do.
Am I off? No, we don't want him to talk.
The U.S. government is on track to run out of money at the end of this month when funding runs dry. Keep in mind, the federal government has run out of money nearly every year, but not to worry, folks. October is the month of the new fiscal budget, which always gets approved every new fiscal year after both parties' input. We all see this saga repeat every year close to the new fiscal budget. Let's also not forget the drama around the $2,000 a month pay raise that some lawmakers just received, such as Nancy Pelosi's crew. Pelosi has signaled she's going to pass the infrastructure bill by September 27th. Progressives, however, are still saying no to the infrastructure bill approval until reconciliation happens first. House Republicans seem less likely than ever to vote for the infrastructure bill. In a new report, the federal government said Social Security funds are expected to be depleted by 2034, which is a year earlier than projected, and the future of the program remains uncertain. Senator Marsha Blackburn discusses Social Security as reports expect costs to exceed total income in 2021, arguing every decision that Biden is making is the wrong decision.
So this $3.5 trillion, it's really much bigger than that, this spending bill. It has vast new entitlements plugged in there that will last at longer than I will be on planet Earth into the future. But at the same time, we're finding out about Social Security and Medicare. The trustees' report finally came out months late. The report shows that the Social Security Trust Fund is expected to pay benefits that exceed the income this year. The fund will be depleted altogether in 2034 unless Congress shores up the program. So, Senator, how can anybody vote for more entitlements without fixing the ones that we have?
Well, you know, we've been saying that for years. You had to look at these reports every year, which we've done. And Medicare is going to run out in 2026. All of the reserves for Social Security, and that's an important part, Dagan. It is all the reserves, all of those IOUs will be cashed back in by 2034 for Social Security. And for Medicare benefits, all the reserves are going to be cashed back in by 2026. Then you're out of money. So then you say, what is going to happen to it? This is why you have to look at the solvency of these funds. Now, also, You have the cost of living increase for your Social Security recipients that is going to go up 6% this year. That is the highest it has been in decades. The last high was when it went up in 2008 with the crash at 5.8%. Last year, I think it was about 1.6, maybe the year before 1.3. It's all tied to the rate of inflation. So every decision Joe Biden is making is the wrong decision. It is going to affect the health of this economy. It is going to affect everything that happens in the private and the public sector.
Author Paul Krugman tweeted, "Don't let the government get its hands on Medicare or your stimulus checks." Before we get to the stimulus check update, 15 House GOP members are urging Speaker Pelosi to start the impeachment process against President Biden at once. New York Republican Claudia Tenney was joined by 14 other members of Congress, calling on Pelosi to immediately begin impeachment proceedings.
But if Joe Biden doesn't resign, we need to look at the potential for impeachment. And I know a lot of people claim this is political. And I would argue that the Democrats' use of impeachment was very political in going after President Trump because there was never any impeachable offense. We have impeachable offenses now that need to be explored as to why Joe Biden, with his callousness and heartlessness, has turned his back on these people and on our American citizens still there and those who have lost their lives in our Gold Star families. This is one of the worst acts I've seen in my entire life. And we need to start holding people accountable. We need to take positions and start pushing.
The $2,000 a month stimulus check petition is nearing 3 million signatures, but will it do any good? While the petition for monthly stimulus checks continues to gain traction, that support is not translating to pressure on members of Congress. Instead, Congress is now focused on the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and the $3.5 trillion federal budget package, leaving a fourth economic impact payment off the table of things to be approved for now. Also off the table are the $300 a week federal unemployment benefits as they're set to expire on September 6th. 8.8 million Americans will lose all their benefits and 3 million people will see their benefits reduced by $300 a week. The eviction moratorium has also disappeared, leaving millions of Americans to face eviction. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar said, "Prevent mass evictions and homelessness. Cancel rent and mortgages for the duration." Senator Marco Rubio says child tax credits will bring America one step closer to universal basic income, as some households with no working adults will receive more than $6,000 from the government. The Human Infrastructure Bill will extend this program until 2025 and might possibly become permanent. In a bill authored by Ilhan Omar, the squad literally introduced the closest thing to a universal basic income currently in Congress, which is a guaranteed minimum income through the Support Act. Oh, and just as a reminder, politicians are still on their paid vacations until late September, yet many of them are using this time to jump on air for television interviews. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says he hopes that Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema don't cave and vote for the budget reconciliation bill.
Now, there are not many moderate Democrats left. We may have two in the Senate. We may have two. One of them is your neighbor, Joe Manchin, and one of them is a woman named Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona, who seem not to be able to buy this notion. Any one of those two could, the whole bill, could greatly reduce the amount of the bill, or they could make a couple of cosmetic changes and cave. That's not what I'm hoping we're going to see.
Sadly, Manchin and Sinema both know exactly what they're doing. They're playing politics. While in Kentucky, Mitch poured cold water on the GOP calls for Biden's impeachment.
Well, look, if the president's not going to be removed from office, if the Democratic House, the narrowly Democratic Senate, that's not going to happen.
Now, I don't want to get too deep into Afghanistan, but did you see this?
We're going to work with the Taliban. Does that include the prospect of giving them aid? Well, first of all, we do believe that there is an important dimension of humanitarian assistance that should go directly to the people of Afghanistan. They need help with respect to health and food aid and other forms of subsistence, and we do intend to continue that. Secondly, when it comes to our economic and development assistance relationship with the Taliban, that will be about the Taliban's actions. It will be about whether they follow through on their commitments to safe passage for Americans and Afghan allies, their commitment to not allow Afghanistan to be a base from which can attack the United States or any other country, their commitments with respect to upholding their international obligations. It's going to be up to them, and we will wait and see by their actions how we end up responding in terms of the economic and development assistance.
While struggling Americans are seeing no relief for help, Biden's national security advisor Jake Sullivan says the U.S. may deliver aid and economic assistance directly to the Taliban.
That don't make no sense.
Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby says, "We have Americans that get stranded in countries all the time."
That look like? How does diplomacy get those people out of the Taliban-controlled Afghanistan?
It's not completely unlike the way we do it elsewhere around the world. I mean, we have Americans that get stranded in countries all the time.
The war in Afghanistan is officially over, but Capitol Hill's commitment to significant defense spending remains. The House Armed Services Committee is marking up the latest NDAA, which will be packed with more than $700 billion in new spending. 780 amendments have been submitted, and yesterday one was easily approved, as they voted in approval to authorize an increase of nearly $24 billion for the Defense Department in fiscal year 2022. If you didn't catch that, to recap, after spending over $2 trillion in Afghanistan, the House Armed Services Committee just voted to give the Pentagon $24 billion more than the enormous 2022 Pentagon budget Joe Biden had asked for. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked point blank about this.
Also, what are we to make of the fact that, as soon as we pull out, you see Republicans discussing adding $25 billion to the Defense Authorization Act. But here, unemployment expires on Labor Day, forbearance on student loans is about to expire, and we're always talking about how we don't have money for human infrastructure, but we see this being put forward.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I would say first, it was not the number one factor, but it did strike the president that we had been spending on average $300 million a day in Afghanistan. $300 million a day. We don't think that's something that most people in the public are tracking, but it's a war we fought for 20 years, spending $300 million a day. I'll let you all do the math on that. So that is certainly a concern, and certainly, as you noted, there are a range of areas domestically, internationally too, where we feel that money could be better spent.
President Biden has not taken any questions on Afghanistan since ending the evacuation and abandoning hundreds of Americans behind enemy lines. Yesterday was just like every other day, with Joe Biden refusing to answer any questions on Afghanistan. GOP Congressman Bill Johnson, who's an Air Force veteran, says he's appalled by the implementation of the troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, arguing it was the worst strategic planning and operational execution failure of modern American history. Johnson also says that Biden is not qualified to sit in the White House.
And I can tell you, I know leadership, and this is not it. Joe Biden represents everything that's wrong in Washington, D.C. He's never held a real job. He's a nearly 50-year politician, never signed the front side of a paycheck. And he has demonstrated a failure of leadership. This is the worst strategic planning and operational execution failure of modern American history. I'm appalled, and every American that I've talked to feels the same way.
Moving over to financial news now. Did you know that 79% of all electric vehicles registered in the US last year were Teslas? That's right, the Tesla Model 3 easily led all electric cars. The Model Y came in second. The pricier Tesla Model X SUV came in third. GM's Chevy Bolt showed a distant fourth, and Tesla's flagship Model S sedan closed out the top 5. The Chevy Bolt was supposed to to be a cold-blooded Tesla, but sadly, General Motors is halting production of the Chevy Bolt after a number of battery fires prompted a massive recall that has already cost the company nearly $2 billion. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey is busy working to connect Twitter to Bitcoin. According to reports, Twitter appears to be testing out tips using Bitcoin on the Lightning Network. It will be using the Bitcoin Lightning app Strike. Former President Donald Trump slammed cryptocurrencies on Tuesday, saying they are a disaster waiting to happen.
Do you have a dabble in Bitcoin or cryptos?
I don't. I like the currency of the United States. I think it's, I think the others are potentially a disaster waiting to happen. I don't know. I feel that it hurts the United States currency. I think we should strengthen, we should be invested in our currency, not in, they may be fake. Who knows what they are? But they certainly are currencies. They certainly are something that people don't know very much about. No, I have not been, I have not been a big fan.
After hearing this, Bill Ingram tweeted, "I'm not one to agree with the former president on much of anything, but I have long wondered whether we really need another form of currency that only has a pretend value because some group of people decides to pretend it does. The US dollar already fills that role in our lives." Billionaire investor Mark Cuban responded to that directly, saying, "Don't think of crypto as currencies. Think of them as decentralized, secure, networked platforms with features that allow for the development of apps that can have unique utility for individuals and businesses." Speaking of crypto, while Bitcoin has continued to trade sideways, Ethereum is on track to potentially breach the $4,000 resistance level very soon. Well, my friends, if you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to this channel and give this video a like by pressing the thumbs up button. Doing so, that's the latest and greatest stimulus check and stimulus package updates for today. As per usual, I truly appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you soon. Have yourself a wonderful day and take care. Wonderful day and take care. Wonderful day.